Oh, how I love the coast of the Pacific Northwest. There is really nothing like it. The aroma of sea salt, wildflowers, and fir trees from the nearby forests fill the air. The sounds of waves crashing along the rocky shores is far more common to me than any man-made relaxing spa music could ever be. And the towns that line Highway 101 in Oregon are about as picture perfect as one could imagine a coastal town to be. This is indeed what calendars and screensavers are made of. But most of all, the beautiful towns are nothing like my favorite, which is Samuel Bay. Samuel Bay is mainly known for two things: its historical bayfront and a destination eatery called the Fresh Catch. Beautiful fishing vessels line the bayfront each morning, ready to set out to sea to get their catch. It's a magnificent sight that's not to be missed when you visit. Of course, the town has your typical antique shops, ice cream parlors, saltwater taffy candy stores, and restaurants, but it's the Fresh Catch that reels in the people from all around. I was one of those people, and I stayed and got a job here. As a stock person, I enjoy a free shift meal and get the privilege of living in a town that I so much adore. The most popular thing on our menu is the surf and turf. Ironically, even though our freshly caught seafood is top-notch, it's the turf that brings in the masses. The meat is so fresh as it can be, so tender and so juicy. I remember the first time my teeth sank into the meat at the Fresh Catch, my mouth filled with the juices that flowed from the steak. I recall stabbing a fork into the perfectly seasoned rare filet that was on my plate. The blood poured out of it, and I used my fork to swirl it around into the meat at the end of my utensil prior to gleefully rising it up to my mouth. I'm so thankful that human teeth are designed for tearing meat apart. Our bodies respond well to all the vitamins, nutrients, and protein that fresh meat contains. I think you should be proud, even honored. You were helping me do my job. So just keep it down back there. I don't want anyone freaking out. I need to pull over and pick up another hitchhiker. The one that just passed by, he has a little bit more meat on him than the one before. As the years went by, the clown's legend grew. Stories of his sadistic nature and his terrifying gift of balloons spread far and wide. Parents would warn their children not to wander too far into the woods for fear of encountering the clown. But one day, a group of teenagers dared each other to venture deeper into the forest to see if the stories of the clown were true. They laughed and joked as they made their way through the dense underbrush, not realizing that they were walking straight into the clown's lair. As they reached the clearing in the woods, they saw the clown in all his glory. He was perched up on a tree stump, his brightly colored suit shining through the sunlight. His smile was wider than ever, and he beckoned the teenagers to come closer. At first, they were hesitant, but the clown's charm and his warm demeanor soon put them at ease. They laughed and joked with him, feeling a sense of camaraderie with the strange creature. But then, something shifted. The clown's smile turned into a snarl, and his eyes glinted with malice. The teenagers turned to run, but they found themselves rooted to the spot. They can only watch in horror as the clown produced his balloons, offering them each to one of his victims. As they took the balloons, they knew what was coming next. The clown lunged forward, his teeth bared, ready to feast. But something unexpected happened. One of the teenagers managed to break free from the clown's grasp and run away. The others weren't so lucky. They screamed and writhed in pain as the clown tore into their flesh, his sharp teeth gnashing at their limbs. But the escaped teenager knew he couldn't leave his friends behind. He rallied his strength and made his way back to the clearing, armed with a branch he found on the ground. As he arrived, he saw the clown feasting on his friends. He didn't hesitate. He swung with the branch all of his might, hitting the clown square in the face. The clown fell to the ground stunned. The teenager didn't stop there. He kept hitting the clown with the branch over and over until the clown lay motionless on the ground. He had saved his friends, but at a great cost. They were all dead, their bodies mangled beyond recognition. The teenager knew he couldn't forget what had happened. He vowed to tell the story of the clown to anyone who would listen, to warn them of the dangers that lurked in the woods. And as he walked away from the clearing, he could feel the ghostly presence of the sadistic clown still lingering in the air. I know there are stories people tell about the forest to creep people out. Most of those are obviously fake. Killer mud monsters and satanic cults aren't likely to kill campers enjoying their time in the woods. People know that, but those stories are fun. And that's why they get told. However, this one is different. As far as I know, it goes all the way back to the late 70s. There was a guy named Dylan. Dylan was a skilled hiker. He didn't just hike and camp around here. He was a legit outdoors guy. He would backpack and climb mountains all over the country. This guy really knew what he was doing. These woods were practically his backyard. He and his friends set up camp for a couple of nights not too far from here. According to his friend, Dylan started a fire and was getting ready to cook up dinner for them. That's when Dylan told him he would be right back. A few minutes later, that's when he heard him screaming. He ran towards the screaming looking for his friend, not knowing what to expect. The screaming stopped, but he raced forward. It wasn't long before he found his friend. Dylan was lying in a hole in the ground, or at least what was left of him. His body was a meaty mess. Limbs were torn off of his torso. His entrails were spilled across the bottom of the hole. Some limbs were gone entirely. That's when his friend ran out of the forest. No one knows how long it took him, but he did make it out. When he returned with the sheriff to the site, less of Dylan's body was there. Animals saw this meaty mess as a delicious snack. His entire skull was laid out across the ground with some meat chunks hanging off some of the bones. The crazy part was that there was no hole. He explained to the police, but they told him in his state of shock he couldn't possibly remember. The official story was that this was a bear attack, even though it wasn't consistent with any other bear attack on record. A good portion of this forest was off limits during the 80s because of some so-called animal attacks. So many of the victims who had companions discovered them soon after whatever happened. They all reported their bodies being in a large hole, and in all cases there was no hole when the body was discovered by the authorities. The law enforcement attributed that to people hearing about the whole story, and that their brain rationalized what they found. The thing is, though, that most of these people claim to not even heard of all the bodies being found in holes. In most of their stories, they spoke of the victims all being drawn away and telling them that they needed to go check something out or that they would be right back. How could all of their stories be so similar? If you ask me, they couldn't have. A bunch of locals who hunted in these woods believed their stories too. They set out to find the hole or whatever it was that was killing all of these people. I'm sure you remember about the forest fire we had about 20 years ago, right? Well, I think they said it came from a campfire that wasn't properly put out. But that's not what happened. The group of people came out here and camped out. They broke off into pairs so no one would be left alone, and if anything happened, each person had a partner. Surprisingly, this simple plan worked. One of the people wandered off of his campsite and was unresponsive when called back. Their partner radioed the others, and quickly they were all following their wandering friend. As they walked through the dark woods on a moonless night, the only source of light came from their flashlights. Their partner slowed down his pace, and that's when they saw it. A hole maybe 10 feet deep into the ground, and equally as wide, but it was no natural hole. The hole was lined with several rows of teeth encircling the entirety of it. It smelled of rotten meat, and their friend neared the hole, and it let out this thunderous roar, The group pulled their companion back and they pinned him down. They later brought back several sticks of dynamite with them. 4 men lit the wicks of the dynamite sticks and tossed them in a hole. They all understood the danger with this, but there was a beast in their forest, and the beast had to be stopped no matter the cost. The blast was huge, and the explosion engulfed the nearby trees with flames. And you know the story after that. Huge forest fires. Firefighters from multiple states came to help. Some nearby homes were destroyed. There were no arrests because one of the people that lit the dynamite was the sheriff's brother, so that part of the story was covered up. They all believed that the dynamite or the fire that followed destroyed the whole. And they're probably right. I don't think there's been any reports of crazy deaths since. But now you all know, sometimes there's something lurking in the woods. Also, you never... Hang on. I have to go check something out. Good evening, everyone. This is Yuri K, and this is the end of the video. Please leave a comment and let us know your opinions on the matter. If you happen to like this content, please check out our other videos. Make sure you like and share amongst your friends and family to help our community grow. You happen to be new to this channel? Please make sure you subscribe. It's free and you can always change it in the future. You have some terrifying story suggestions? If so, make sure that you send it to my email, fearofthedarkstories@gmail.com, and I'll feature it in a future segment. But you guys stay safe out there, and remember to always be afraid of the dark.